Okay, everybody, welcome to page one of the FL-150 Income and Expense Declaration form. So as I explained in the intro video, this form is used a lot in family cases all throughout California, and I've noticed that a lot of unrepresented people, people without lawyers, oftentimes struggle when they have to fill this form out. So hopefully this video, the series of videos, this playlist rather, will help alleviate some of that confusion. So the best thing, or the best way to do this, I think, is to tackle this page in chunks. So this first chunk up here should look fairly familiar to you if you've seen a lot of court forums recently, either on this current case that you're working on or on prior cases. So the idea, though, is that over here you have to put down the attorney's name, address, phone number, email address, etc. Or, if the party doesn't have an attorney, like, if you're the one filling this out and you don't have an attorney, then you have to put down your name, phone number, email address, mailing address, etc. So in this second box right here where it says Superior Court of California, County of blank, last I checked, California doesn't have a county of blank, so you got to put something here. So within the county that you're in, San Bernardino, Sacramento, whatever, there's going to be a courthouse where your case is, and that courthouse has a mailing address. That could be the street address, or it could be like a P.O. box. I've seen that before also. But in my experience, as long as you have a mailing address of some kind here that can identify the courthouse that you're in, that's sufficient. So moving on then, down here you actually put the names of the parties. So instead of plaintiff and defendant, a lot of times it's petitioner and respondent. So go ahead and put those names down. Where it says other parent or claimant, that doesn't apply in every case. And most of the time when I see somebody listed here under other, it's usually the County Department of Child Support Services. So I have another video, which I'm going to link right over here, that goes over kind of a primer, I guess, a basic kind of short version about how child support in California works. And go ahead and take a look at that if child support is a concern of yours. So that said, over here, the last thing in this kind of highlighted portion right here is the case number. So you got to put that down. And this next kind of chunk right here, oops, that. So the income and expense declaration, as you could probably guess from the name, goes over income and expenses for the person filling the form out. So the court wants to know how much you make and how much you spend. So this first box that I've highlighted here, this first kind of area, I guess, goes over employment information. So for example, who you work for, where the employer is, what their phone number is, what occupation you have, as well as, when you started working, how many hours a week you work, and how much you get paid. If, for example, you are unemployed at the moment, you can go ahead and fill this section out also. It actually says right here, if you are unemployed, list out your most recent job. If you are unemployed, the one thing that you make sure that you have to do is for F right here, where it says if unemployed, date, job ended, you have to fill that out. So the court knows that the job you're describing is not a current one. Regardless of whatever it is that you put down for this section, you have to pay attention to this box right here. So regardless of what it is that you put down in terms of the number of hours you work for each pay period or week or whatever, or how much you get paid for each month, week, hour, piece, whatever the pay scale in your job is, you have to attach pay stubs because two pay stubs rather, because if you don't, then you can probably imagine that a lot of people will purposely understate their income. They'll say, for example, that they only make minimum wage when they in fact make $80 an hour, and they work 5 hours a week. That's what they'll say, when in reality they're working 65. So to prevent kind of trickery or fraud, whatever you want to call it, the courts require that you actually include attachments, I guess, to the FL-150 form whenever you submit one. And a lot of times, from my experience, the attachments are actually more important than the declaration themselves, because the declaration, even though it's a declaration, a lot of times people don't fill it out properly, or they, purposely leave stuff out, etc. Pay stubs are a lot harder to kind of fake, I suppose, if that's the right term. So anyway, if you have a second job, some people do, so you have to go ahead and provide the same information, employer name, address, salary, hours, etc., for those jobs as well, and you can just use another piece of paper to do that. So section 2 right here is should be self-explanatory. It's a lot of biographical stuff, so they want to know how old you are, what education you have, if it's high school, college, graduate school, if you have vocational training, and if you do have college or graduate school, they want to know what kind of degrees you obtained. A lot of times people go to college for a year or two and then they drop out. That's fine, no big deal. But they have to put down, say, 2 years of college, but then they would leave the degree field blank. Number 3, oops, right here, this is tax information. So, it should be fairly self-explanatory as well. They want to know what was the last year you filed taxes, your filing status at the time, where you filed taxes, and how many exemptions you're claiming for yourself. Number 4 here, this is I guess the person's best guess as to what the other person in the case makes in terms of gross monthly income. So for example, if this is a divorce case where you're filling this FL-150 out, and let's say that you're the wife in the case, you have to make well, you don't have to. If you know and you can make a best guess as to what your ex or soon-to-be ex-husband or soon-to-be ex-wife is making, you should put that down here, and actually you should put it down right there, and include a kind of estimate or reason why you know that. So for example, let's say that during the course of the marriage, or you handled all of the financial stuff in the relationship, or you have their joint tax return from last year and their job hasn't changed, so that's how you know, or you're guessing that their income has stayed the same. And the last part for page 1 here is actually probably the most important part to the entire form, aside from the attachments, like I mentioned earlier, it's the signature block. So if you're filling this form out for yourself, after you fill out all the pages, go ahead and sign this right over here on the right, print your name over here, and date it right there. And that's what makes this form, I guess, legal, I suppose, if that's the right word. Because by signing, you're declaring under penalty of perjury that all the stuff you've mentioned in this form is correct. So that's a fairly big deal. Make sure that you don't lie or misrepresent anything in this form, because if you do, and it's under penalty of perjury, that could cause you problems later on. So hopefully that helped. Page number 1 is actually not so bad. Page 2, which I'll describe in a subsequent video in this playlist, this is where, in my experience, a lot of people get slightly intimidated. It's actually not so bad. I'll go over it, but yeah. So anyway, hope that was clear, and let's go on to page number 2.